our energy is the thing that's going to dictate our outcome.
Yeah.
And so if we are coming into our business, and whether it be client calls or motivating employees or figuring out some really complex stuff when it comes to shipping, and there's a lot of things you need to be thinking about, you need to come in it with a clear mind. And so there needs to be an element of taking that space to invest in your energy. Hi, welcome to the Connect with Sheila Botelho podcast. I'm an entrepreneur, self-care strategist, and creator of the Seasons Self-Care app. I'm committed to helping you reconnect to your purpose, elevate your well-being, and build your version of a happy, successful life. I recently had the absolute pleasure of joining Leslie Kuster, womanpreneur mentor, entrepreneur, and best-selling author of 7 Keys to 7 Figures on her powerhouse series, She Rises. We dove into one of my favorite topics, of course, self-care for high-achieving female business owners. We talked about how to rewrite your money story, scale your business without burnout, and lead with confidence, joy, and balance. This episode is packed with insights you can take away and start using today. Enjoy.
Today's guest is Sheila Botelho, and I am thrilled to have her here to talk about the unbelievably important topic of self-care. So Sheila is a holistic business coach and speaker, and her self-care focused approach empowers women to learn how to expand their business by alchemizing presence, play, and pleasure into regenerative, creative flow and financial abundance. And I just have to stop for a moment, because when I read that on her website, I was like, oh my God, that is just like, it couldn't be better. So I'm so happy about her focus. Sheila believes thriving businesses begin with thriving founders, and she's on a mission to help women create abundance that flows into every area of her life. She's also the host of the highly rated Connect with Sheila Botelho podcast. And with that, please welcome Sheila. Sheila, thank you so much for being here on She Rises. You know, we've been connected and let's call it online friends, right, for a while. I have, just like you, just like me, we've been following many different people, right? So when you get into like kind of the women entrepreneur space, there's fabulous people to follow, fabulous newsletters to get on and all of that. And I have to say that your newsletter and what you give out to the world is the one that I actually open and read. I mean, maybe there's another I do too, but you're really one of the few. And why? Because you have a really authentic quality about you, and because of your focus so much on self-care and how important that really is. So because of all of that, I am particularly thrilled to have you today on the show. And just to get started, I just would like you to just sort of just introduce yourself, like how and why, there's so many coaches out there, but why did you really focus on like the self-care strategy, and why is that your focus?
Well, first of all, Leslie, thank you for that. Thank you for having me here. And thank you for letting me know that about the email. I'm glad that it's helping you in some way. And there is something really special about us coming together to have conversations like this, because I guess I will say to backtrack to my story of what led me into the self-care space is my many years in the wellness space of having a direct sales business, but also doing wellness coaching with women and men. That was a beautiful thing on my heart. And then my sister had a cancer diagnosis and went through this process. And it was a very short diagnosis. It was like 6 weeks from the time she was diagnosed till the time she passed. But during that time, I had the business. I was with my kiddos. I was teaching them at the time, actually, when they were younger. And the mothering responsibilities. And I was in the sandwich generation, having aging parents and my marriage and all of these things. And I knew what I personally was experiencing, but I also saw, although my sister was a stay-at-home mom at the time, she was really wanting to get back to work and thinking, how do I do all of this and be present? And so what was starting to happen was she was sacrificing her health. And it was in many ways her diagnosis. I look at it and I still feel like it was a bit of an out in left field enigma kind of situation, right? Like who knows really what caused that. But at the time I was noticing so many other women because, right, as soon as you see somebody going through something and it's so pivotal for you, you start seeing it everywhere, right? You buy a Jaguar, you see Jags everywhere, right? Like it's that kind of situation. Don't know why I picked Jag, but anyway, that was the car. And and so it was really heartbreaking for me because I saw these women who were just, they were working out. They were doing all the wellness things, or so we thought. They were showing up for everything. But I think the key thing was they were really prioritizing everybody else over themselves. Even though they took care of like their wellness in terms of working out or whatever, it would be, at the last on the list, and everyone else came first. And then came the ideas about, how do we really grow a business? Is it selfish to put ourselves more into building our business when everybody else needs this or that? And how do we do that? It was either build a business or be well, right? And like, why are we separating the two? So that was really where it began. And so I shifted out of just the wellness space into bringing self-care as a strategy for growing beautiful businesses, for growing beautiful relationships and families, everything. Because when we are well, we overflow, that energy overflows into everything we touch. But when we're not, everything suffers. So that's really where it began.
Now, I knew about your sister, and again, I'm really sorry, and that's completely shocking. And one of the things that I've heard you write about or talk about is just how like that experience with your sister like really woke you up. And I know that I've often spoken about thinking, and I know you have too, that we really in many ways have to think about death, and that we are going to die, all of us. And when we're at the end of our life, whenever that's going to be, is like, do we want to be living the life we're living right now? And this is what I know you very, and I could imagine your sister woke you up from any of that. Is that right?
Absolutely. Because I realized at that time, as I was so in that, like, just I'm scaling back so I can be home with my babies. And that was a plan. I waited 10 years with my husband to have kids. We weren't sure, will we have kids? I don't know. Traveling's fun.
Okay.
And so, but I just loved it. And I knew there was that little voice, that little, like, there's ideas, I'm an idea machine. And it's like, no, there's something more here. But I really held this belief that I could only really do one thing well at a time.
Yeah.
And I understand. And this is why like my app is the Seasons Self-Care app, is because we are in seasons of growth, whatever it may be, relationships, business, our creativity, our wellness, everything. But what woke me up was seeing how she was 42 at the time and she had a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. My beautiful nephews who are now teenagers driving, one has a car, like it's crazy. They were so little. And I could see them and I could see my kids. And I'm like, what am I really teaching them about what's possible? Every night I would lie in bed with my little boys and I'd say to them, dream big, beautiful dreams. You can do anything, right? And my parents would say the same thing to me. And I've done some neat things in my life. And I felt there was always a cap, always a limit, something that particularly the women in my life either modeled or spoke of. And then it's really, I witnessed it in a lot of women limiting themselves and not getting the help, getting the support they need. Like you talk in your book about, you aren't supposed to do it alone. Like get the support, but believe in yourself first that you are worthy of it and be capable of it. And so that was really the wake up call. And I remember sitting with her and she was like, at the time we really thought, okay, yeah, you're going to kick this thing. She's like, okay, we're going to pull out all the stops. We're going to just go. We're going to do this. I'm going to get so well. You watch out, world. It was that kind of energy. And so I was an optimist right to the end. I really didn't imagine that things would have ended.
Yeah.
And I took that with me though, of like, wait a second. if this is what she was prepared to do, like she literally was on her deathbed. And I mean, like you say, we have to talk about these things. So anyone who may be going through a traumatic time who's watching this,
Yeah.
I feel you, what you may be going through. It's really, really tough. And I am going to say, like, trigger warning here. Literally, my sister died in my arms.
Mm.
And that changes a person because you see, oh, okay, what if this is me and my little boys who were like, if mommy's sister can die.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I was holding that. It was so much. It was so much. But I thought, well, okay, this is my life. I'm still here. That was the key thing. I'm still here.
Yes. Yes.
So what's it going to be? What am I going to do? Am I going to keeping things small? And certainly for me, I knew it was small. For some people living the life I had, like that's the biggest life they could imagine. And that was what's meant for them. But I knew there was something more. And it was less about me than what other people could unlock in themselves.
Yeah, I really relate to that because that was like also my experience when I kind of made my change. I call it, my change from like the small me, doing under 100,000 a year in revenue in my business. I was okay, paid for a few nice vacations, whatever, to the me where I was like, I'm waking up and, I know I could do more. Mm-hmm. And that was for me, just what you just said. For some people, it may be enough, and that is perfect for you. But for me, I knew that I was kind of lying to myself and that I could be doing better than I actually was doing. I could be living better. I could be earning more. I could be more me or whatever, instead of thinking I'm small. So I completely agree. You talked about seasons, and I love that. That's something I actually reflect on myself, because the world works on seasons. I mean, the sun and the moon and the night and the day. And like, I know we all go, yeah, we know that. But, animals rest and they do action and all of this. And yes, we go to sleep, most of us, hopefully. Okay.
Hopefully.
Right. Hopefully we do go to sleep as well. So we all hopefully share that one thing of that rest. But in the time of action, it's not always the same. It's not, the seasons are not always the same. When we're awake, it shouldn't always be go, go, go. Is that right? Is that what you mean by the seasons?
Absolutely. And we can only really know what season we're in when we slow down enough, get quiet with ourselves, and make space to really say, okay, well, number one, where am I right now, really? And where am I in relation to where I want to go? And it may be like, where do I want to go? That may be the decision that people need to make, is like, well, where do I want to go? Because often we're on this path that maybe was not even created by us. And, we love our partners, our life partners, our spouses, whoever, our parents, all these people have these beautiful ideas. And it's so important for us to check in and say, okay, this idea that they have that I'm going along with because it's the easy thing to do. And maybe, well, I love them, so they must know better. What is the truth for me, though? Is that aligned? Or do we need to tweak things? Or can we maybe make a detour? Or can I pivot? Like, we only know that when we take time completely alone. Like someone said, I don't know who it was, but I mean, it's kind of basic knowledge. We are the person we're going to spend the most time in our whole life with. Mm. We are born alone and we die. Like literally, I know, we can be with people, but literally our soul, it's ours. And it's connected to, I believe in God. It's connected to creator power, whatever source power. It's us. So we have to take ownership of our own desires. And so when we do that, we get quiet, then we can say, okay, what season am I in? Or what season do I need to be in? What season do I want to be in? And sometimes like our culture literally runs on like start and grow and just keep growing. And we just want total growth. And, we invest in the stocks and we see, oh, they're up and down. Oh, shareholders want another. They want growth quarter after quarter after quarter. Is that really the way life works? Not really. And if anything, that's how we see decisions being made by companies, by business owners that are not really aligned for the best interest of the customers, the the employees, whoever, because it's just growth, growth, growth without really thinking, no, we need to take space to rest. So I look at that from an entrepreneurial standpoint. I look at it from a personal standpoint
Mm.
and from a larger business structure and even a global standpoint. Like as a large entity, how do we work more in seasons that help us to make better choices? And it's like, so think about like actual seasons, like winter, spring, summer, fall. And like you said, things sleep in the winter. Even I was in California over Christmas with my godmother and my family. And even there in beautiful, lush California, it was before the fires, and I was further south. My gosh, my heart goes out to anyone who was impacted there. Even there, like things were not as lush as they would have been in the summer, in the spring. So seasons, it's everywhere, right? And so what is the season that you're in right now? Take space, figure it out, and know that it's okay to be in a slower season, because when you take the space, that's when you actually get clarity on where to go next. And you have the energy to actually start something new and then really run with it to get it out into the world.
I mean, I couldn't agree with you more. And I kind of tested that theory out like years ago. I've been going to like a spiritual retreat every summer for actually 33 years. It's kind of a long time. It's where I met Heinz. It's where I met my husband. And there is a time in my business where that was when I really wanted to grow it and accelerate it and everything. And I still went to the retreat. And I think I spent 6 weeks there, and I worked really minimal then. I think maybe 1 or 2 hours a week, a week at the time. And what I noticed was that at the end of that year, my business really grew. And yet I worked so much less, and I really took that time to go to that meditation retreat, which I thought I maybe couldn't go to. So I have found what you just said to be 100% correct, is that when you do take the space and you stop, and you, first of all, you do it for self-care, number one. Number two, you do it for clarity, because without stopping, you can't hear that inner voice of what it is that you really, really want, what you really, really need. And number three, when you do those things, it's kind of magic that the business does grow during those times, or, months after those times.
It is magic. And I have to say, like, your book has been so meaningful to me. And when I was reading it first, and I knew we had spoken while you were writing it, when it came, I'm like, oh, I just literally like, nobody ever leave me alone. I'm reading that. Like, I really wanted to get into it. And these stories, this one in particular really stood out to me because I'm like, whoa, I love this. And here's the thing though, like, did you feel like, you must have been like, wow, surprised, but did you also feel a little bit like pissed off at the powers that be that let us think, no,
Yeah.
you can't ever stop? Like,
Yeah.
how does that make you feel?
Yeah, yeah. I think that's a really good point. And this is what we do struggle with it, isn't it? Is like, we have to appear that we're working a lot and then spending all these hours and doing all these kind of things. I don't know if I felt pissed off about it, but I definitely felt like this is really a new way of thinking. And I really haven't heard that many people really talk about this. And I certainly didn't see proof of it. And by the way, at that time, I was not running a 5-figure business. I actually was running a 7-figure business. So it's not like, I didn't have a small business at that time. So I think it's like an unknown secret that people don't really speak about it. And we hear, like, on the internet, we're inundated with these people or coaches, you could have 7 figures, you could this, you could that. And, the truth is there's what's most important is that it's done with authenticity, which is what you were just saying, to what it is that you truly need and want, and not done by just numbers or whatever. And we have to, especially for women, not that men don't need this, but somehow I think women need it more. We really have to live our lives as close to what's authentic to us, and as close to what our personal values are to us. And if we don't, boy, do we suffer. All right. Really suffer.
Yeah, we do. And when we suffer, everyone around us suffers. The
Yeah.
ecosystem suffers. And this could not be more true than for BIPOC women. I have so many friends in very, many, many different backgrounds. And it's like, in many ways, joy and actually taking care of themselves is like a revolutionary act. And I feel like women as a whole, it is a revolutionary act because I watched a movie once and there was someone talking about a mother had passed or a grandmother had passed, and everyone was speaking so highly of her. And she was so wonderful because she never thought of herself. She was always there to pick up the pieces and take care of everybody else. And she lived a good long life, thank goodness. However, it's like, okay, I'm all for being kind-hearted and helping and being there for people. And martyrdom is not a badge I want. And it's one that has been kind of sold to us. And so
Yeah.
that if we see it in the home, we take it out into the workplace, we take it out into the business world, and we carry everything, like in our friendships, especially people who are empathic, we carry it into those relationships. And then it becomes like, I love the author Terry Cole. If you haven't heard of her, she wrote a wonderful book called Boundary Boss, and she has a new book called Too Much. And
Ooh,
she
that's
talks
good. Getting
about,
that down, boundary boss.
yeah, she talks about like, wow, like we have to have boundaries. We can't let this roll, right? And yeah, she's very powerful. And so embodying these things is really important. And having these types of discussions is
Yeah.
so important so that you're not like the one who's like, well, I'm not, I'm being selfish, right? And yet,
Yeah.
when we look at people and their goals and we look at successful individuals from wherever, they're people who have really gone all in on the thing that's important to them. And you mentioned something really interesting, and that is, we have all these different ways of, and certainly it's exciting. There's many different ways of being successful, and we get to choose our flavor because there are those people who they will only ever be happy building businesses and just growing and scaling. I heard something this morning and someone who was on vacation and then they were there for a very short time. It's like, you know what? This isn't fun for me. I want to go back to doing the thing I love. And it's like, hey, awesome. Awesome. Do that. Like, so you best, but
Yeah.
that's why spending time alone with yourself is helpful to truly own it and to have a community surrounding you of
Yeah.
people who let you be who you are, which I believe you've really cultivated well in your world. And I'm super grateful for my business besties and my community who is like, hey, you get to do you, and we're going to celebrate the thing that you're celebrating. We're not going to tear you down for your success. We're going to celebrate you for putting yourself out there, and we're going to celebrate when you take rest. Also, like, yes, we can do this.
Yes. Can we define self-care a bit and give some examples to it? Because I also think a lot of women think that if they're exercising, they're going to the gym, they're doing cardio, weightlifting, that they're eating a good diet, that constitutes self-care. And those two things are, I mean, to me, those two things are so basic that we shouldn't even have to be talking about it any longer. Honestly, I'm tired of people not understanding what healthy food means. All right. It
Right.
means whole foods, people. Okay. That's basically what it means. So exercise. So women, a lot of times who think they're exercising and eating well and keeping their weight, that they're self-caring. You and I think, are talking about something even more than that. So can you give examples of it, and what can a woman do to really self-care, to really get into that space where she could really figure out what authentic success is, what she really, really needs, and what will really nourish her in her life, or be in a way so she could even feel what she needs to be doing.
Yeah, there is such a distinction because what you were talking about earlier, like eating well, exercise, that's personal care.
Yeah.
That's like, I equate that with brushing your teeth, having a shower, right? And unfortunately, that's not been the case for a long time for people. So really self-care, it's multifaceted. It starts from your spiritual to your mental, to your physical, to
Mhm.
your relational. to your purpose. And so, examples, I look at self-care as that bookended time of the day where I'm literally taking space to think about in the morning, for instance, well, what's coming? And I'm going to have this time with myself to collect my thoughts, to dream a bit. Dreaming is self care. Oh my goodness. We need our dreams. They fuel us. Listening to something good that fills me up, whether it's music or an amazing podcast, reading something from a book, like it could be poetry, it could be spoken word that I'm listening to, it could be, some kind of self help book. That's self care. Self care is really, really prioritizing time with my soul sisters and saying, hey, gonna go spend an afternoon with a dear friend and we're gonna talk life. We're gonna talk business, like dreaming about that, planning a girls' weekend away, that self-care, going on a walk, like literally, like, yes, that's physical, but it's the element of what happens in your mind when you're out there in nature. And that's connecting. Because again, I mentioned like my spiritual connection to God. And I feel it even more when I'm in nature because we are a piece of nature, right? We're all connected.
So true.
So yeah, and self-care could be, allowing yourself to dream of what's to come for the year ahead. Like self-care is planning your year and like planning the enjoyment into it first, planning in the breaks, planning in the rest. And then self-care is also, it's giving yourself tough love. When you know, oh, you're holding back, you can be doing more. Like it sounds like you understand this and have felt this, and perhaps our viewers and listeners have found this too, where you can identify not just one, probably multiple times, but think about a recent time where you were doing something and you finished and you maybe stopped doing something before really you got the result that you knew really you could get. And you kind of let yourself off the hook, right? So there's more potential in there than what you're actually doing. So self-care in that regard, like it's so multifaceted. It is like calling yourself out and saying, hey, let's get real here. I need to deal with this, and having people around us who support us in that, like community is everything, having those conversations. So yeah, it's very multifaceted and it really is going to be individualized based on what works for you. Like could be playing music, singing, whatever. Yeah.
It just reminded me when you were talking, like it really is sort of defined in a way as like taking responsibility for yourself and taking responsibility for your life and where it's at. Because wherever, and this is what's really important, wherever your life is at right this moment, we have to take full responsibility for where it is. And, just to share, I'm in a season of my business right now, my Back from Bali business, the women's clothing line, where it's really busy right now. All right. And so I was just getting stressed again about things like there's so many things to do. Right. And so that's why I was so happy to talk with you today, because I really need to like remind myself again of the self-care and getting back into that space so that I don't go into those feelings of overwhelm and stress that we can get into when things start to get really, 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 really busy. So it's really, we were talking about this before we started the show, is that, I think in our business, we do self-care. We're pretty good at it, right? In our personal lives. And then life happens, right? Our business changes, it explodes or whatever. And then we have to apply it again. And I think this is what's really important for everyone to understand is you never arrive, even if you have a 7-figure business, which I'm really happy to say I do. You never arrive and say, okay, it's really done now. It is a constant thing. And that means also a constant focus on self-care also, because that has to change and evolve, and you have to keep applying it again and again.
It's true. And thank you for sharing vulnerably about that, because I don't think we hear these stories enough. We hear about rock bottom often from people, and then we hear about like the highlight real.
Yeah.
But that messy middle that is like, oh, it's kind of like, I've
Yes.
mentioned I've been married 28 years, 28 and a half, whatever. I feel like I've had 6 marriages inside of that time because it's not always been like,
Love that.
we're just like going, it's getting better. No, we change. Thank God. Like, I want to change. And I think growth that you're either growing or dying, as they say, right? Like you need to keep growing. And so what you mentioned though about how you feel going into the business and how to really, what is self-care strategy and how does it relate to business, and the way I really guide women in doing it is in really doing just what you said, bringing all of those principles into your business. They
Yeah.
are part of the business day, the business week, the quarter, the half, whatever. And this piece of it though, the reason why it's important is because just like in every other area of our life, our energy is the thing that's going to dictate our outcome.
Yeah.
And so if we are coming into our business and whether it be client calls or like, motivating employees or figuring out some really complex stuff when it comes to shipping and like all of the things, especially now economically, there's a lot of things you need to be thinking about. You need to come in it with a clear mind. And so there needs to be an element of taking that space to really invest in your energy and that stepping away. For me, I do webinars and I do dance breaks. I dance break. I was dancing when you were introducing me because you had some good music on. Hey, by the way, I love Alicia Keys. So that was a great song.
I love that.
I sing her all the time. And so we need to bring the play back. And that is self-care, bringing our playful curiosity, because if we're business owners, if we're entrepreneurs, we're creating a whole ecosystem of our own little economic piece of the world from an idea in our mind.
Yeah.
So we need to have playful curiosity. And I love to, if there's so much stuff about business that's not fun, and usually for me, it's the stuff in a spreadsheet. I can do it. It's not my joy. My joy is the connection.
Yeah.
However, I make the spreadsheets fun and finding a way to make it enjoyable. That's self-care in your business.
I'm
It's a simple way.
Spreadsheets, Sheila.
What's that?
I'm going to send you my spreadsheets.
We can do it. Co-work.
This actually, what you're saying reminds me of, that a lot of times women, we kind of keep the parts of ourselves separate. Like we have the business part. So maybe we have a business Facebook, or we have a business LinkedIn, right? And then we have like personal, whatever, Instagram, and a personal this, and you don't connect any of them together. And I remember when my business started and everything, that was such a big question to me, is like, do I post about, my business on my personal profile page, right? And do I post personal things on my business page? And it was so confusing. And I remember, because I don't want that person to know about that. And I don't want one of my relatives to know I do this. And so I have thrown all that out the window now. And I'm wondering what you think about that, because I just sort of put all of me into wherever I am.
Well, it certainly is the most economical use of your time, is to just be you wherever you are. That's kind of my motto for me. And like it or leave it. The playfulness comes in at the strangest times sometimes. But when it comes to your business, to your social media, in this case, the way you're marketing yourself, and I do guide a lot of people in the creator economy right now, specifically around this. How are you showing up? Our world online has become such a cohesive entity that really it's all about building a personal brand. And to show that this is really the way and it's working, is very large brands that are like household names that have been around for years are creating personal brands out of that to connect with people, because people buy from people. They don't buy from this big entity. And if anything, people in our times are a little jaded and skeptical about the big stuff. And I am all about bigger, better, like you grow as big as you can. I love success. I love big numbers. It's fabulous. And the connection piece needs to be there. We want to be doing business with a heartbeat, whether it's a person or a company that has a collection of people who have a heartbeat. Like those people with a mission, with a purpose, they're giving back, they're really listening to their customers. That's who we want to do business with. So with that in mind, you are an individual. And if you're starting up something, this is very common. I think I went through the same thing. Like, oh, what are the neighbors going to think? And then I'm like, oh, wait, no, the neighbors know who I am. We talk all the time. They know it's wild and crazy, Sheila. What's she doing next? And so you put yourself out there and you promote your business and your brand or whatever it is that you're doing for your business. And those who are meant for you will stay, and those who won't, they can leave. It's okay. And I heard someone say, because sometimes in this world of personal branding, with so much happening in our world right now, well, there's always so much happening in our world. There's always events that they feel like if I'm on social media, I have to, and I have a brand and a platform, I have to comment on every single thing that's happening globally. And I want to just say, I'm giving you the permission that you don't need to have from me, but give it to yourself. You do not need to comment on all that stuff. You get to comment on those things that are really important to you and authentic, as you had mentioned, because someone said, like, your tax dollars do not go to me, right? Like, be you. And like, that is very key. So I'm all for just go for it, do your thing. And then when you actually are freely yourself out there on the socials, the right people your people are going to come and be attracted into your space. And those people who leave, they're meant to be connected to someone else. And that's going to help them grow in the way that is meant for them. And it's all good. So bless and release.
I love it. So the answer is just be you and focus on a personal brand. And even in my business where I photograph and do videos on with models and all of that, world photographers, models, all that, what I'm noticing is that there's just very much a movement in my content and my photographs that we want more natural. Like, we don't want like the model to look like she's just out of vogue. Basically, we want things shot with an iPhone or videos with an iPhone. We want to be able to relate to it, and that's what you're talking about, and that is the kind of the direction we're all going into. We need to be authentic in everything that we do, and try not to be like shy or embarrassed about who we are, because why not, right? I mean, we're back to death. I want to just circle back to death and actually wrap up here. The question is, how do you want to feel at the end of your life on your deathbed? Like, how do you want to feel? Are you living the life you want to be living in your life when it's ending? Is this what you want? Is this how you're going to continue to live? Is this how you're going to continue to feel? I'm someone who also has had a lot of experiences with death and loss, all kinds of losses in my life, as many of you have as well. My heart goes out to you. And what it has done for me is to really remember death on a daily basis and to just keep asking myself. So when, stress comes up, as it did for me yesterday, I was thinking, oh, I'm so happy I'm talking to Sheila tomorrow about self-care, because that's now going to reset me to do more of it right now. So Sheila, I want to thank you. I want you also, if you can, just share how people can find you. If there's anything else you want to plug or talk about, please, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much.
Just going to add right here. There's your website right up there.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a great place to go, everybody. I'm building my waitlist for the Seasons Growth Accelerator, where we walk women founders through this process of applying these principles to growing and scaling their business into the next phase. This place where you have a vision for what's next, but something's holding you back, all of the different things that can slow us down from actually going to our next level. We also talk about hands-on technical and strategic ways to harness what is available to us now in online business to grow things. SheilaBatello.com/growth. You'll be able to see it linked there as well. Thank you for having me. I so appreciate you. And I'm thrilled that you've got so much traction with this beautiful book and your legacy of what you are building.
Thank you. Thanks, Sheila. Thank you, everybody, for being here on She Rises. We will see you again.